Tonight's on Reporting Scotland, the return of rubbish piling up on our streets. Edinburgh faces more festival bin strikes among 18 local authority areas now affected.
I think it's a pretty grim job, and I think if they want more money, they probably deserve it.
The rubbish piling off, it's definitely not good, but at the same time, it's perfectly understandable.
Also tonight, the looming deadline for owners of XL bullies. They have until midnight to register to keep their dogs legally or face the threat of fines or jail if they don't.
And coming up in the sport, with the countdown on to the start of the Premiership season, Celtic boss Brendan Rodgers says he's closing in on his first outfield signing of the summer.
Be prepared for rubbish piling up in your bins and on the streets in the coming weeks, because 3 unions have now announced strikes by refuse workers across much of the country. Members of Unite, Unison and GMB have confirmed they will walk out in mid-August for more than a week if a better pay offer isn't tabled. Local government body COSLA says it's disappointed but remains committed to further talks with unions. Morag Kinneborough reports now from Edinburgh, where the strikes are due to hit the summer festivals.
It was not a good look for Scotland when 2 years ago bin collectors went on strike over pay. Rubbish piled up across the country during peak tourist period, and the world spotlight was on Edinburgh's festivals. Now more strikes are planned from the 14th to 22nd of August after thousands of Unite, Unison and GMB members rejected a 3.2% pay offer, saying it grossly undervalues their work and is less than their counterparts are offered down south.
We've got 14 days to try and resolve this. GMB will make itself available at every opportunity to try and resolve this and find a negotiated outcome. Our members deliver vital services to their communities, and so if they're not out there delivering those services, the communities feel that. Of course they do, but it is on the MSPs, it is on the councillors to come around the table with an improved offer, and if that offer is good enough, our members will accept it and we won't have industrial action.
Mixed feelings from residents worried their bins won't be collected.
I think it's a pretty grim job, and I think if they want more money, they probably deserve it.
The rubbish piling off, it's definitely not good, but at the same time, it's perfectly understandable.
As a worker as well, I guess, you know, they need to fight for their rights.
Well, I suppose if they felt that they had to go on strike, there must be a reason.
Festival organisers are concerned about the long-term impact. Sponsors may be deterred, visitors too, if Scotland looks a mess. Some businesses are worried about their trade.
It is kind of heartbreaking, as we know that we as a business owner have been waiting for the August Fringe Festival for a year now. And knowing that the bin strike is going to go on, it is a nightmare for us and it's for the customers and plus for the tourist people who are going to come here and enjoy their holiday.
The local government organisation COSLA has said it's disappointed in these strike dates. It says it remains open to further discussions, but it can't afford to offer more pay. Last time the Scottish Government intervened to reach a resolution in the bin strikes, it was involved in the latest talks and is committed to further negotiations.
Well, Morag is still in the centre of Edinburgh for us tonight. Morag, we can see it's clearly getting really busy there now. Everyone there, and indeed across the country, will be hoping the strike action can be averted. But how likely is that now?
Well, I think it's fair to say that it's going to be hard, but not impossible. All 3 of the unions involved, the employers' organisation COSLA, the Scottish Government, have all said that they are keen to find a resolution to this pay dispute and try and avert and prevent that strike action beginning on the 14th of August. But time is tight. There's no dates in the diary yet. And whilst there's the will there, is there the money? So still lots of questions. And I say time is tight. So some councils are already starting to put out advice on their websites for local residents, for businesses, what to do if the strikes do go ahead and the bins do start to pile up. There are 26 council areas affected out of the 32 councils in Scotland, so a huge part of the country will be affected. And if you want to know more information, you can find out a list of those areas and then check how and if you'll be affected by looking on the BBC Scotland News website.
OK, Morag Kinneborough in Edinburgh, thank you. To some of the day's other stories now. An investigation by the authorities at Holyrood has found there's no evidence for the inappropriate use of parliamentary postage by SNP MSPs. The inquiry was sparked when an anonymous complaint suggested stamps bought with Scottish Parliament expenses were being used for general election material. A spokesman for the SNP said it was extremely disappointing that light-hearted comments were taken out of context to smear individuals and cause damage during an election campaign. delivery driver has admitted murdering his partner after returning home from a football match. John Higgins, who's 63, attacked 50-year-old Amanda McAleer at her flat in the Barmulloch area of Glasgow in May 2022. She was found by her son the following day. Higgins was told he faces a life sentence when he returns to Glasgow High Court in September. And King Charles has spent time in the Flow Country, welcoming its recent designation as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The King visited the Forcenard Flows Visitor Centre in Sutherland, meeting staff from the RSPB, of which he is a patron. The area contains the most intact and extensive blanket bog system in the world. A company which employs disabled workers to make NHS uniforms has warned 60 staff are at risk of redundancy. Haven Products says it could be forced to close unless its contract with the Scottish Government is extended. The Government says it's still to make a final decision and all deals need to provide value for money. Here's Hope Webb with more.
This is our main textile operation here, where we manufacture the NHS Scotland nurses' uniforms. So you see here, the guys here are working on the tunics. We have a separate trousers line as well.
Karen has worked at Haven for over 10 years now, overseeing the creation of NHS Scotland uniforms. But just weeks ago, she had to alert her staff, all living with a disability, that 60 jobs are at risk. That's because the Scottish Government has decided to end their uniform contract this November.
For a lot of the staff, this is a social aspect as well. Coming in here and engaging with peers. If all that's removed, they're concerned firstly about the social side, but also about the financial impact. Most of them will be going back onto social security, which in my mind doesn't benefit anyone, particularly even the Scottish taxpayers.
A second document scanning contract has also expired today. Both make up 80% of the workload here. Callum Stewart has been employed at the charity for 9 years, working his way up to supervisor. He has Asperger's syndrome and relies on the income from this job.
This place means so much to me because of how it's been able to be it's almost like a rock that I'm able to stay with. It's been the single thing that every day, Monday to Friday, I get up, I go to work, I do it. It's a continual reoccurring pattern that is able to stop me from getting overly worried or overly freaked out or overly panicky due to my disability.
The Scottish Government said all new contracts will be considered carefully, in line with subsidy control measures to ensure value for money for taxpayers in Scotland. Until then, the staff here, many of them vulnerable, can only wait to see if the door will be closed on their employment. Hope Webb, reporting Scotland.
Now, XL Bully owners have until midnight tonight to take steps to keep their dogs legally. From tomorrow, it will be a criminal offence to have one without what's known as an exemption certificate. And in order to apply to the Scottish Government for one of those certificates, your dog needs to be microchipped. It must be neutered by the time it is 18 months old, and you must have public liability insurance. There's also a £92.40 fee for each certificate. So far, the government says more than 2,500 people have applied for one here. And remember, this comes after tighter regulations around the dogs came into force back in February. Since then, it has been an offence to have an XL Bully in public without a lead or muzzle. You can't breed or breed from an XL Bully or sell, give away or rehome one, or abandon or let an XL Bully stray from home. If you break these rules, you may be fined up to £5,000, face up to 6 months in jail, or both. For more on the latest changes coming into force, here's Richard Forbes.
Kerry-Ann Shaw has been rescuing XL Bullies for years. She fought against this new law being introduced, and she still says the legislation is flawed.
By introducing another breed to the banned breed list, it's just putting a band-aid over what is a bigger issue, which is dangerous dogs. And as we're seeing in media reports, there's been Malinois killing babies, there's been Canny Corsos killing people. So it's not a breed-specific issue. We need to look at the bigger picture.
The new law doesn't refer to XL Bully dogs. It refers to XL Bully type dogs. It's a broad term that continues to cause confusion and frustration for owners of similar breeds.
My dog's often mistaken for an XL Bully. I get a lot of people jumping out the way or pulling the kids out the way, which I've kind of got used to now.
It was a public outcry over XL bully attacks that caused this legislation to be brought in so swiftly. So how do the public feel on the eve of its implementation?
The ban was a long time coming because they are quite ferocious dogs if you can't control them. And you've seen the attacks on some of the kids, even adults, and it's frightening.
I think that what they say, that is not the dog, it's the owner and the way that they educate the animals.
You know, I understand the owners don't want their dogs taken away from them or destroyed for whatever reason, but I suppose, I would feel a little bit safer if they were not on the street.
The Scottish Government says that although dog attacks are rare, they can have a devastating impact. It adds that the new law is being introduced to promote responsible ownership and public safety as effectively as possible. If there's anyone who's not had a chance to register their XL bully yet, you have until midnight tonight to apply. Richard Forbes, reporting Scotland.
Experts and politicians are warning we're facing a severe shortage of vets, in particular in rural communities where scenes like this might be familiar. But today sees the start of the first ever vet camp in Scotland. The idea is to give teenagers a taste of life as a vet and encourage more into a career in veterinary practice. Aileen Clark has been along to see it.
So they'll eat things like branches, leaves, they'll even eat, see the tops of the nettles, they really like stuff like
Goats, not the fussiest of eaters it seems, and whether it's their habits or even how to gain the trust of an alpaca. These young students were all ears today. This session at Scotland's Rural College geared to making sure those who fancy becoming a vet can see that through.
Yeah, I think I've just grown up around horses and things, so I've just always been around animals and wanted to help them.
You wouldn't mind turning out to a cold barn at 2 in the morning?
Not really, no. I mean, it's like you're going to make an impact on both the farmer and also the animal's life.
All Scotland's vet schools are involved in this 2-day camp for interested school leavers, and with good reason. Vets are in short supply across the country.
There are acute problems in places like Butte, in places like Lewis, where the vet teams are running on lower numbers of staff than they might like, and they are unable to recruit.
Here on Butte, with the vet practice having to give up big animal work, it's been a worrying time for farmers.
I think the farming community felt very uncomfortable once we realised we had lost our 24-hour cover, and also in situations where livestock, if there was veterinary cover, could have been saved. It's a pretty distressing situation for a farmer to be in.
The Scottish Government says it is aware of this and other issues, particularly facing rural communities.
I am genuinely confident that we will get that rural focus from the government to make sure that we are delivering on the things that we need to deliver, and that includes veterinary cover.
The next lesson at vet camp, how to rescue a mock-up horse. The instructor, a vet just 2 years qualified, loving her job and inspiring others.
I was on call actually just at the weekend, and I did a C-section on a bitch, and we saved all the puppies. So that was pretty good.
I would be happy to become a vet and go back to Isla. It's a really nice place to live, and yeah.
You'd be welcomed with open arms, I'm sure.
The idea of these sessions is to encourage these school leavers to follow their dream and become a vet, but also to go into the profession well equipped to deal with the highs and the lows and all the hard work which lies ahead. Aileen Clark, reporting Scotland, West Lothian.
Okay, let's get tonight's sport now with Sheila, and it has been a busy 24 hours for you guys following all the action from the Olympics.
How dramatic was it last night? How dramatic to work on that?
Absolutely, how dramatic it must have been in the pool and on the tennis court, not just for
and
us
trying
in
to
the
keep
newsroom.
track of it all happening at once. Yeah, we'll get more Olympics news in a minute, but first we'll start with some football. Hello there. The Celtic manager Brendan Rodgers says the club could complete the signing of Portuguese midfielder Paulo Bernardo in a matter of hours. The 22-year-old Benfica player enjoyed a successful loan spell in Glasgow last season, making 33 appearances for the Premiership champions. And Rodgers says he's about to return to Scotland on a permanent deal. Meanwhile, the Celtic boss says there's no news on the club's attempts to re-sign Adam Ida, who has been punished by Norwich City for missing his club's flight to Austria for a pre-season training camp. Well, the St Mirren manager Stephen Robinson has urged his players to make the most of a once-in-a-generation opportunity by progressing in the Conference League as they prepare to host Icelandic side Valur. The sides drew 0-0 in Reykjavik in the first leg of the second qualifying round, a scoreline that sets the Paisley club up nicely for tomorrow's sold-out contest. It's been 37 years since the town hosted European football, a stat that's not lost on Robinson and his players.
We've been very clear in our intentions. We didn't want it to be one round. As I say, first and foremost, we kept ourselves in the game, potentially should have been winning. And it's now an opportunity. Both teams know who they get in the next round, so it's certainly a carrot for both teams. And it's important, I think it's important for Scottish football that everybody represents Scotland well and shows what a good standard it is. And we aim to do that tomorrow night.
We've got to try and do the best we can, because there's no point doing all that all season and then regretting playing bad or something. So we can just do the best we can and hopefully, do what the gaffer tells us to do, and hopefully that gets us the result.
St Mirren aren't the only Scottish club in action tomorrow. Kilmarnock are aiming to build on an encouraging first leg display in Belgium as they take a 1-1 draw into the second leg of their Europa League tie with Cercle Bruges. This is the Killie team training this afternoon, getting used to their surroundings. Their manager, Derek McInnes, knows the odds are probably stacked against his players, but he feels they're in great shape and hopes they find a result that would set up a tie against Molde or Silkeborg.
There's no doubt it's a tough game for us tomorrow night. Bruges are favourite for a reason and they've got huge advantages, obvious advantages over us, but I think we saw last week a very tight game, very physical game, a very demanding game in both sets of players. We're hoping it's something similar again tomorrow night, but hopefully we can just try and eke out that little advantage and take any opportunities that come our way, because I think that'll be important to show our quality as well as show everything else that we're good at.
OK, now let's go over to Laura Goodwin to find out what's happening on the BBC Scotland channel at 9 o'clock.
We'll have the latest on last night's riot in Southport and the investigation into Monday's knife attack. Also on the programme, Iran has vowed to avenge the death of the senior Hamas leader. And we speak to the organisers of this year's Edinburgh Tattoo. We'll see you at 9.
And now Christopher is here with the weather and another beautiful photograph for us. You can't really fault Scotland in this weather, can you?
Can't. You're matching the beautiful colours of the rosebay willow.
All intended, all intended.
Yes. Some warm sunshine today, but it was really chilly last night. The coldest night, July night in Glasgow since 2001.
Wow.
Down to 5 degrees. In fact, a few spots were colder than that. But this coming night, not as cold, much milder. However, there's a lot of cloud coming.
Just stop it, however,
yes.
Chris.
Okay. Let's take a look at the forecast. Thanks very much indeed. Very good evening to you. Yeah, we had some lovely spells of sunshine across many parts of the country today. But overnight tonight, we'll have a lot of cloud building as well. So this is the picture for the next few hours. You can see we've got some showery rain pushing in through parts of Arran and Kintyre in towards Ayrshire and the central lowlands. And temperatures, you can see around 9 to 13 Celsius. So nowhere as near as cold as last night. Let me just show you the numbers, and you can see a few spots down close to freezing. There we have Glasgow and Edinburgh around 5 degrees, but this coming night double digits. So a much milder start to the day tomorrow, but a fairly cloudy start to the day. Perhaps a little bit of light rain initially across the borders, and then through the course of the afternoon, that cloud tending to thin and break, some sunshine breaking through, but that could spark some hefty downpours, maybe thundery through parts of Lanarkshire in towards the Lothians and borders. Elsewhere, the clouds should be thinning and breaking and temperatures still into the low 20s. So a much brighter and warmer day across northern parts of the country compared with today. Still some areas of cloud around the Western Isles and in towards the Northern Isles as well. Then as we head in towards tomorrow evening, those showers fade. Some evenings sunshine, but you can see this stripe of cloud over my shoulder there, a sign of things to come, because tomorrow night, low pressure out to the west, starting to send weather fronts, cloud and some rain our way for Friday. So initially on Friday, a bit of an east-west split, brightest and driest in the east, cloudier conditions in the west, and outbreaks of rain beginning to move in, but making slow progress eastwards. The wind strengthening all the while around the west coast, and temperatures still into the low 20s. Quite a humid feel. And then looking ahead towards the weekend, low pressure is nearby, but it's not a washout this weekend. Let me show you what I mean. Here is Saturday. Some showers across parts of the west and northwest, drier and brighter elsewhere, a fresher feel, mid to high teen temperatures. And then on Sunday, rather cloudy through the course of the morning, with some rain beginning to work in as we head through towards the afternoon. That's the forecast for now. Laura.
Thank you, Christopher. Tonight's main news again. Scotland gets its first individual medal at the Olympics as Beth Potter bags a bronze in the triathlon, our first individual medal. Edinburgh faces more festival bin strikes among 26 local authority areas now affected. Members of Unite, Unison and GMB have confirmed they will walk out in mid-August for more than a week. And XL Bully owners have until midnight to register to keep their dogs legally or face the threat of fines or jail if they don't. And that is Reporting Scotland for now. Anne McAlpine will have your late news around 10:30 tonight. Until then, from everyone in the team right across the country, enjoy your evening. Good night.